Listen closely to the static of the cosmos. It is not empty. It is a whisper from a graveyard we were never meant to exhume. In the freezing, absolute silence of deep space, our most advanced instruments turned their cold, gold-plated mirrors toward the absolute beginning, the dawn of time itself. We call it Year Zero. This was a period when the universe was supposed to be a dark, formless womb, completely devoid of structure, cold, quiet, and dead. Standard physics promised us nothing but infinite hydrogen and quiet shadows. But instead, the dark stared back. And it was screaming. The signals arrived like ghosts drifting through the cosmic fog. Faint, impossible infrared pulses cutting through 13 billion years of frozen dust. When the raw telemetry first bled onto our screens, a suffocating dread settled over the control room. There, at the very edge of the observable horizon, we saw them. Colossal, bloated monoliths of light, burning with the savage ferocity of entire galaxies, yet condensed into single, impossibly dense spheres. These are the primeval titans. Objects so massive, so ancient, they shatter every model of cosmic evolution we have ever dared to write. They simply should not exist. To find something this gargantuan so soon after the Big Bang is like discovering a fully formed, towering Gothic cathedral built in the middle of a barren desert, just seconds after the very first drop of rain fell upon the Earth. How does a star grow to the size of an entire solar system without collapsing under its own crushing gravity? Standard nuclear fusion is too weak, too slow to fight that immense weight. No, these monsters are fueled by something far more sinister. Something invisible, ancient, and endlessly hungry. Dark matter. The unseen, ghostly scaffolding of our universe, acting not as a passive skeleton, but as a violent, primordial fuel. We are looking at the legendary dark stars. Giants powered not by the light of atomic fusion, but by the slow, agonizing self-annihilation of dark matter, burning with a cold, terrifying heat. They are cosmic parasites, feeding on the invisible web of the cosmos, bloating to impossible proportions in the deep dark. As we gaze deeper into this ancient abyss, a sickening realization takes root in our collective consciousness. We are not looking at the birth of light. We are looking at the ancient reign of the shadows. The universe did not begin with a gentle, welcoming spark. It began with terrifying giants fed by the dark, watching us from the edge of time. And as their ghost signals wash over our fragile, unsuspecting world, we are forced to ask ourselves, if the darkness is what kept them alive, what happens when it finally decides to feed on us? To look upon a dark star is to stare into the throat of an impossible god. Standard physics dictates that a star must burn. It must crush hydrogen in its core, igniting a violent nuclear furnace that fights against its own gravity. But this is not a star. It is a cosmic tumor, a bloated, golden colossus spanning billions of miles across the pristine dark of the infant universe. It does not burn. It festers. Imagine a furnace with no flame. Inside this swelling leviathan, there is no fusion, no desperate clashing of atomic nuclei, no blinding light of creation. Instead, its beating heart is made of ghosts. Dark matter, the invisible, untouchable scaffolding of our universe, is being fed into the crucible. Deep within the core, where the pressure should be crushing atoms into plasma, dark matter particles collide with their own twins, annihilating one another in a quiet, relentless suicide pact. This annihilation releases a soft, suffocating heat that pushes outward, ballooning the star into a monstrous, puffy giant, millions of times wider than our sun, yet colder than a dying ember. It is a delicate, terrifying equilibrium, held together not by the strength of matter, but by the physics of destruction. The sheer scale of it defies human sanity. If you were to stand near its bloated edge, you would not feel the searing, crisp heat of a solar flare. You would feel a heavy, sickening warmth, like the breath of a feverish predator in an empty room. It glows with a dull, menacing infrared light, a silent beacon screaming into the void. It is a parasite of the unseen, a physical monument built upon the ashes of invisible matter. This is the great paradox of our origins. We have always believed that light was the eternal enemy of darkness. But here, at the dawn of time, we find that the very first light in the cosmos was birthed by the dark itself. The dark was not the absence of creation, it was the fuel. It forces us to ask a terrifying question: if the universe's earliest and most massive engines were kept alive not by the elements of life, but by the phantom gravity of the unseen, then what are we? Are we the children of starlight, or are we merely the cosmic dust left behind by a primordial darkness that decided, for a brief, agonizing moment, to shine? We are looking at a graveyard of ghosts, and we are calling it the dawn. Look into the void, and you will feel a chill that does not belong to the cold of empty space. It is the touch of something that is there, yet isn't. In the fragile, screaming infancy of our universe, when the first lights were struggling to ignite, there existed monsters. Not stars of fire and fusion, but gargantuan specters. We call them dark stars. But they do not wear their darkness like a simple shroud, they breathe it. They feed on it. Imagine a leviathan, millions of times more massive than our sun, yet utterly devoid of the violent, thermonuclear screaming that defines modern stars. Instead, it is fueled by a phantom. Dark matter. The invisible scaffolding of the cosmos, slipping through our fingers like ghost dust, yet possessing a silent gravity that bends the very spine of reality. Inside the swollen, dark hearts of these primordial titans, invisible particles collide. They do not merely touch, they annihilate each other. In that silent, unseen suicide, they release a slow, agonizing warmth. A pale, cold glow that stretches across the ancient abyss, a whisper of heat in a frozen eternity. It is a terrifying realization of cosmic ecology. We reside in a universe built upon the bones of what we cannot see. These impossible giants did not burn their fuel, they digested the invisible. They sat at the center of dark matter halos like cosmic spiders waiting in webs of unseen mass, endlessly drinking the dark to sustain a bloated, fragile existence. To look upon one would be to stare into a mirror of absolute nothingness that somehow radiates heat. It is a slow-motion consumption, a parasitic relationship between the visible matter we cling to and the dark, suffocating ocean that cradles us. And here lies the psychological horror of this cosmic paradox: if the very first stars were kept alive not by their own inner strength, but by feeding on the unseen, then what does that say about the foundation of our reality? Are we merely the ashes of an ancient feast we were never meant to witness? We boast of our telescopes, our mathematics, our arrogant ability to pierce the deep. Yet, we remain blind. We are children staring into a pitch-black forest, unaware that the trees themselves are alive, breathing, and feeding on the dark. The universe does not fear the dark. It is made of it. And we are just the brief, fragile sparks catching the light of its eternal hunger. We have always comforted ourselves with the story of light. We tell our children that the first stars were pristine lanterns, igniting the primordial bloom with the clean, fierce fire of hydrogen fusion. But science, in its relentless, terrifying pursuit of truth, has stumbled upon a far darker genesis. In the cradle of the early universe, where the shadows of the cosmos were thickest, something else was born. Not stars of fire, but monsters of the dark. These are the dark stars. Colossal, bloated leviathans, so inconceivably massive they could swallow our entire solar system whole, yet they do not burn. They do not fuse. Instead, they are kept alive by a slow, agonizing whisper of self-destruction. Deep within their swollen, gaseous bellies, invisible dark matter particles collide, annihilating one another in a silent, perpetual execution. This is not the radiant energy of life, it is the cold warmth of decay. It is a phantom heat that defies gravity, allowing these impossible giants to swell to monstrous proportions, growing larger and more terrifying than any star has a right to be. Imagine standing on a cold, desolate world orbiting such a beast. You would not look up at a bright, blinding sun. Instead, you would behold a colossal, dark red eye filling the entire sky, a dim, festering ember radiating a heavy, suffocating warmth that reeks of cosmic decay. It is a grotesque mockery of a star, a cosmic parasite feeding on the unseen, ghostly scaffolding of the cosmos, casting long, twisted shadows across a dead landscape. To contemplate them is to confront a disturbing existential truth. We, the fragile creatures of light and baryonic matter, are not the main characters of this universe. We are merely the transient foam on the surface of a dark, unfathomable ocean. The true architects of the cosmos are these ancient, shadow-fed titans. And their legacy did not end in the deep past. When the dark matter fuel finally ran dry, these monsters did not die quietly. They collapsed under their own impossible weight, folding spacetime like paper, birthing the primordial supermassive black holes that now sit at the center of every galaxy. The abyss at the heart of our own Milky Way is not a random cosmic scar. It is the grave of a monster born of shadows. We are, quite literally, orbiting the corpse of an ancient god that once fed on the dark. And in the silence of the night, if you listen closely to the cold expanse, you can still feel the pulling gravity of the shadow that made us. Look up at the night. You see the stars, those fragile, burning pinpricks of dust, and you feel a comforting sense of ownership. You believe this universe was built for the light. It is a beautiful, desperate lie. For decades, we believed the cosmos was a vast, empty gallery, and we were the rightful spectators. But our newest, coldest eyes in the deep dark have shattered that illusion. They have peered back to the absolute dawn of time and found ghosts. Colossal, impossible entities burning with a cold, terrifying heat. These are the dark stars. They do not fuse hydrogen, they do not burn with the clean, bright fire of our sun. Instead, they are fueled by the violent annihilation of dark matter, an invisible, untouchable poison that saturates every inch of the cosmic void. They are giants of pure, suffocating mass, bloated by the very substance we cannot see, cannot touch, and cannot comprehend. They existed when the universe was supposed to be a barren wasteland of cold gas. Yet there they stand, defying our physics, fueled by a phantom energy that we can only measure by the way it warps the fabric of space itself. And in their staggering, impossible existence, a horrifying truth begins to crystallize in the dark. We are not the rule. We are the anomaly. The baryonic matter that makes up your bones, the air you breathe, the oceans, and every star you can see with your naked eye, it is nothing but a cosmic rounding error. A microscopic dusting of ash clinging to the surface of an infinite, black ocean. 95% of the cosmos is draped in a shadow we cannot pierce. The universe does not belong to the light. The light is merely a brief, shivering fever, a transient disease flickering in a dark, eternal house. Feel the weight of the silence around you. Right now, billions of dark matter particles are streaming through your flesh, passing through your brain, silent and indifferent. They do not register your existence because, to the true universe, you do not exist. We are the ghosts haunting their dark dominion. Those impossible, ancient monsters powered by the dark were not mistakes of the early cosmos. They were its purest, most perfect expression. They were the rightful heirs of this dark dominion, thriving on the invisible fuel that truly governs reality. We are the freak mutation, a fragile, blind species shivering beside a dying match, desperately pretending that the shadows aren't creeping closer. But they are. And they have always owned the dark.